The heart is a pretty fantastic organ. Found in all vertebrate animals, that is, animals with backbones. It's a pump that sits in the body and pushes blood around through a system of veins, arteries, and capillaries. And because animals are adapted to suit different environments, all their hearts are slightly different too. A fish's heart has just 2 chambers, while the human heart has 4. A blue whale can lower its heart rate to just 2 beats a minute when it dives, while in that same minute, a mouse's heart could beat up to 600 times. Crocodilians are also pretty fantastic. Their fossils have been found from all the way back in the Jurassic period, 200 million years ago, and they've changed very little since then. The term crocodilian includes not just the crocodiles, but alligators, caimans, the gharial and the false gharial, who all share similar characteristics, including a very unique heart. At first glance, it looks a little bit like a mammal's heart. It has 4 chambers and multiple big blood vessels running through it, sending deoxygenated blood to the lungs where it can be loaded up with oxygen and sent back through the heart to the rest of the body. In fact, these 4 chambers are part of what makes the crocodilian heart so unusual. Most reptiles only have 3. Coming out of these chambers, they also have an extra blood vessel. The human heart has 7, starting with the pulmonary artery, which takes deoxygenated blood over to the lungs. Once it's nice and oxygen-rich, it's taken back to the heart by one of the 4 pulmonary veins, and delivered to the rest of the body via the aorta. The body takes all the oxygen it needs, and the deoxygenated blood arrives back in the heart in one of 2 veins, called the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. Reptiles have all of these, plus an extra aorta on the other side. These are just called the right and left aorta, and in crocodilians they are connected by a little channel called the foramen of Panizza. So why do crocodilians get to have this weird little structure whose name sounds delightfully like pizza? If you look inside the heart, close to the pulmonary artery, you'll find a little valve which might look like it has teeth. Now the structure of this valve is unlike anything found in any other vertebrate heart. Those teeth are cogs, made up of connective tissue, and they fit together perfectly. This means that when the valve closes, no blood can get through into the pulmonary artery. Instead, the oxygen-poor blood is diverted into the aorta, and both oxygen-poor and oxygen-rich blood can mix via the foramen of Panizza before it flows out to the rest of the body. Essentially, when the valve is closed, the crocodilian will get a lot less oxygen from its blood. So what's the point of having less oxygen in your blood? If anything, you'd think an animal that spends so much of its time underwater would need more oxygen, not less. Over the years, there have been many theories about the benefits of this odd adaptation. Maybe it enables them to get as much oxygen as possible out of the blood while they hold their breath. Or maybe it's an evolutionary throwback that doesn't really benefit them anymore, but they've still held on to it because it doesn't harm them either. In 2008, a paper on American alligators was published in the journal Physiological and Biochemical Zoology. It seemed to have the answer, and I've linked this paper in the description box for anyone who's interested in reading it. When blood is travelling through the body to drop off oxygen, it's also picking up waste, namely carbon dioxide, which is dumped from the blood back into the lungs to be breathed out into the air. Too much carbon dioxide can be lethal, but a little bit is quite useful. In fact, carbon dioxide is a key ingredient in the gastric juices that break down food in the stomach. If carnivorous reptiles can't break their food down quickly enough, it can start to rot while it's still inside their stomach, so there's a lot of pressure to digest prey quickly. What if the goal, instead of having less oxygen, was to increase levels of carbon dioxide in the bloodstream, so the body could produce more gastric juices and digest prey faster? To find out, scientists artificially disabled the alligator's ability to perform this shunt, and then compared their ability to digest with that of alligators who could still shunt their blood normally. Although it varied depending on the temperature, alligators that couldn't shunt blood generally produced much less gastric juice. They also took a lot longer to digest the outer layer of bone in their stomachs. We don't know for sure if this is the reason for the strange anatomy of the crocodilian heart, but it's the strongest evidence we seem to have so far.